Yeah, so we're excited about this game. Chance to play Stanford. Two teams from the Bay Area. Um, the Bill Walsh Legacy game. Excited coming off our win, tough, hard-fought win. Um, versus Idaho this past week. Proud of our guys, and love the way they battled back. It was a great team win. Happy for guys like Dennis and Walker, two guys that played well, and guys that taken some criticism, but they took it in stride and came back and played well. And looking forward to this game. Like I said, we got a lot of respect for these guys. Um, Probably one of the better rosters we're going to play. Being coached by an NFL coach and Coach Wright that's been around. It's, coached and played in Super Bowls, and um, this is going to be a tough game. Just watching them on tape, big physical team that likes to run the football. They're forward, their running back's really good back. Gilbertson, we know him. He was the quarterback at Oregon State, and so he's a good quarterback. And so we recognize that, for us, we got to be ready to play every game. It's going to be a tough matchup for us, but we're looking forward to it. But with that, any questions?
Vic Aquino, Mountain West Connection, Yahoo Sports. In the previous game with Idaho, obviously their offense elongated they really pushed your limits on defense, and on offense you had very 40 plus plays, and it seemed like where there was key plays that just kind of hyped up the emotion and the urgency of the game. And how do you capture that? Because I don't think you're expecting to do that, but you get one play and it just sparked everything up.
Yeah, I think the play in particular that sparked this was Jabari Bates' long run. And it wasn't. It was, like you said, it was difficult from the standpoint. It wasn't like they were gashing us running the ball, but just little 3, 2, 3. 4th and 1, they'd go for it. It was very similar, like I had said, to kind of how I coached when I was at the Service Academy, or how the other Service Academy plays. You play 4 downs, and you get in 3rd and manageable, and try to get into 4th and short and go for it. And with their quarterback, it made it tough because he's an athletic guy. But to the credit of, offensively, our guys continued to stay focused and played, and Jabari's run definitely helped us. We got a key stop there at the end when we needed it, and allowed us to get down in field goal range. But besides the opening drive, Walker had that one he probably should have put the ball away or thrown away earlier. Thought he played well, and because he played well, gave us a shot.
The rival psychology, over the decades here, it's always have and have nots and whatnot. Do these rivalry games have any extra oomph to you, at least in terms of what the community and whatnot?
We recognize the significance of it, the history of it, like you said. Coaches that have coached at both places. Obviously you got Coach Walsh, and guys that's coached at both places. Coach Elway, kind of interesting story. Him coaching there, and his son is quarterback at Stanford. So we're both obviously very close to each other. It's kind of interesting. It's a away game, but we're going on a bus, and it's going to get us 30 minutes to get there. And so I think just the local rivalry, 2 institutions that are here, situated in the Bay Area, and a lot of people have gone to both schools, family members. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it. But I think for us, most importantly, they're a good football team. And we recognize that they've traveled probably more than anybody in the country. Their first game was to Hawaii. Then they ended up playing at Virginia last week. They played Boston College, BYU on the road. They've had a tough schedule, and also a schedule that's had them travel a ton. So, yeah, we got to be ready to go against this team. And that's my concern. Just sometimes people look at records, but we look at them on tape, recognize how good they are, how well coached they are, and also from the standpoint they've had a tough schedule.
Nick Urias with KSJS. Coach, you've kind of preached, kind of all throughout the season thus far, that your team needs to get off to a fast start. I guess how essential is it this week, just given Stanford's, offensive philosophy with their ground attack and, just their offense as a whole?
Yeah, we definitely don't want to fall behind them because, like I said, they grind you out. They got a really good run game. I think against Hawaii, they had like a 20-play drive, and just marched right down the field. Um, we see who they are, see how big and physical their line is. You don't want to fall behind people like that because they possess football, and offensively you're on the sideline. And so we definitely got to get off to a fast start. It's like you said, there's something we've tried to preach, but we haven't done so well. We've actually had really bad starts in our games. Fortunately, we came back last week, but it's imperative for us to get off a fast start against these guys.
Aaron Johnson with the Breaking News, and you mentioned after the Idaho game that you heard people like around town would ask you about Dennis or Walker, and then just what was it like for you to just see them get the job done last week?
Yeah, just again, I was happy for Dennis, but also I recognize as a coach that I didn't put him in the best position in the Central Michigan game. We know he's a left-footed kicker. He liked the right hash. All of our stats showed us that his percentage of making kicks was way better there, and so I didn't do a good job of getting the ball in the right hash for him at the end of the game. That wasn't going to happen this week, and so we made sure that hey, put him in this position where he can succeed, and super happy for him. I didn't see the kick live. Had my eyes closed praying, but I saw it on TV, and he hit it pure. I mean, he hit it pure right down the middle. So I was so excited for him and excited for Walker. You know what I mean? He didn't play. I mean, it's not like he played horrible the first two games, but he didn't play up to par. Like we know that he can play, and so it's exciting for us to see him play well, and that was exciting.
And on that final drive that led to the Dennis Lynch field goal, was that the goal from the start? Was just to get in field goal range, or were you going for the end zone?
No, we were going to try to score if we could, obviously, but as it kind of got down closer, then it was more like, okay, make sure we keep the ball in the right hash. So whatever we're going to do, we're going to keep the ball in the right hash and try to give them as few seconds as possible, the least amount of time as possible, after they got the ball. And so that was the mindset. Because there might have been some stuff maybe we could have got more yardage, but once we felt like we were in field goal range, we didn't want to make the same mistake as last time because we were already in field goal range. We were actually way closer to the Central Michigan game. We were like 10, 15 yards closer than that, and we didn't get the ball in the right hash. So, yeah, we are super hyper-focused. Coach Stutzmann and myself, just like, let's keep the ball in the right hash for him. I mean, even though there was a play at the end against Central Michigan game that Kama came in, and really the play could have broke right to the field, which would have got it towards the middle, which would have been great, but he broke left. So the coaching point when he got in there is like, we have a design run right. I don't care. You just stay to the right. If there's 10 guys coming that way going to tackle you, just stay that way. Don't try to break to the field. And Tom was such a great kid. He goes, yes, coach. And he probably could have made more yards going, breaking to the field a little bit, but he listened and got pounded, and got like a yard and stayed on the right hash.
Hey, Coach Niles with the Spear here. After looking at Saturday's film, what stood out to you positively, and what are you looking to improve this week?
I thought offensively for 47 plays to have, 430 yards, I thought that was really, really good. I mean, that's not a lot of plays. And so a lot of explosive plays. So I thought we did a good job. I thought we did a really good job of taking care of the ball. That one was just kind of, Walker was trying to throw it, and, it wasn't, him not having the ball high and tight. I thought defensively, we got a little bit pushed around a little bit, but I like the way we finished. We finished to end the half. We stopped them, and we also we stopped them at the end of the game to give us a chance to win. So I was proud of the grit of our defense. Like I said, we got pushed around a little bit, but we finished at the end. And offensively, I thought we were super explosive, which that's what I thought we would be like after watching us all at camp, all spring ball, like what we saw in that against Idaho, with really, really explosive offense.
And then what are you seeing from Stanford that's different from what you saw last year?
Well, they're still a physical team. They're big, they're long, they've recruited well. They've lost some guys in the portal, but the guys that they got are still really good players. They're well coached. I mean, you just see them. I mean, obviously they got NFL caliber type coaching staff, and so they're besides Texas, the next best roster we played, and and I was telling our team, Central Michigan and Idaho gave us everything we could handle. So just trying to say, hey, this roster is better than those two teams, and so we better get ready to go because this good football team, well coached, and hopefully we're ready. Hopefully we're off to a fast start, but hopefully we're ready to go.
And then when you bring Tama in, like what goes into the decision in like certain situations? Like when do you decide to bring him in?
Well, it's kind of Coach Stutz's feel how the game, course of the game's going. Obviously everybody knows when he comes in there, he's a running quarterback, but he can throw the ball too, and so we got stuff for him. He can run the whole offense, but he's elite at running football. He's super fast, and so yeah, I'm sure everybody sees him come in as to run, which majority of times it is, but he knows offense too from a passing standpoint too.
And is there any hope of seeing Malachi Riley back at any point this season?
No, Malachi Riley, he's done. He had his surgery, so he won't be back this season.
And Matthew Coleman, is he not getting reps because I know you mentioned he was dinged up, or is that just we're going with Kyrie Schultz because he's having better performance?
Yeah, he's dinged up right now, and hopefully he'll be back. He's recovering, but he should be good this week.
Coach, you mentioned that you saw Ben Goldbranson last year when he was at Oregon State. Is there kind of any benefit that your players, like some of your players, have gone up against him in regards to preparing for this matchup this week?
Well, the offenses are not totally drastically different, Oregon State and what Stanford does, but there's some similarities. It's not the exact same. Oregon State, ran the ball a lot of play passing stuff, 11, 12 personnel. So it helps, but a lot of guys aren't back, but we have the guys that are back. Hopefully it helps them, but a little different scheme. But at least, like you said, at least we know who he is. He's a good player, got a good arm, he's athletic. So he's kind of come into his own this last game. I thought he played really well against Virginia, but he's in a new scheme, so I'm sure he's still getting more and more comfortable with each practice, each week, and he looked really good last week.
Any more questions for Coach?
I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but you talk about the simplicity of the game, and then like over the last few weeks, I'm kind of hearing there's a lot of minutia, like getting snapped straight up so he can walk and get his eyes straight, right hash, getting your eye discipline. I'm just looking at the statement there, and how deep does each player have to go to the routine to make sure they're doing their job and that level of, I don't know, what levels of preparation you need to do for those little things.
Yeah, it's. I think people would be amazed. It's like you got another class. I think people would be amazed at football, all this into it. Like our meetings are just as long as our practices. They're just as important. Just all the things you got to cover on film. You got handouts. There's quizzes. There's so much detail in what you do. There's scouting reports. They're thick, and the numbers, the analytics. There's a lot in it now, and yes, there's so much detail into stuff, and so there's a lot of things that we do to try to emphasize detail, like the way you dress, what time you come to practice, and all those things. I'm trying to tell guys it's not so much it's not the dress per se, or not the, okay, we're not going to wear this certain color or that certain stuff, and people like, you don't like that color, or it goes, no, it has nothing to do. It's just attention to detail. Because my thoughts are as you can't just become detailed on game day. Okay, all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to pay attention to all the details. It's got to be a way of life. You can't. In my mind, you can't be a messy person and all of a sudden get to the game and try to, organize things. It's got to be the way you wake up, brush your teeth, make your bed, make sure your clothes are right, whatever. And so there's some little things that we try to do from a detail standpoint that help you because there are a ton of details in football.
Hey, Coach. Vic Aquino, Mountain West Connection, Yahoo Sports. With the game last week and how long you were on the field and whatnot, and you're calling these plays, do you ever actually like kind of run out of things? Or, you're out there so long and you're trying to figure out how to keep them on the field. But these emotional plays, we kept them down the last drive, I think 4 plays, and it was like a really emotional sort of sense, and the team kind of rallied around that. How do you kind of balance those two when you're trying to figure out what they're doing offensively and then
Yeah, it's difficult. You only have so many calls during a week that you can prepare, your guys in executing that week. And so when those drives get a little longer, those third downs, getting off the field, and then, that just prolongs those. I think there was a 12-yard drive, a 13-play drive, a 17-play drive. Those things are difficult, and you just got to keep in it and just keep at it, and hopefully that you'll get off the field and get it back to our offense as soon as possible. But yeah, it can be difficult. Some of those third downs, if it's 3rd and 10, they got 8. So now it's 4th and 2, and they went for it. And we couldn't stop them, so it just kept that thing going. But they learned from it, and hopefully be better because of it.
And you could probably expect Stanford to maybe exploit whatever they think they see, and you're going to continue to counter that. But I noticed a little bit of Jalen Thomas out there. He's a young kid out in the corner, and surprised. What have you seen him when you recruited him or when he came in, and just expectations like what he's doing right now as a freshman?
Yeah, no, it's really great. He came in as he was on a gray shirt first, and then we brought him in early because we thought that there was a need for him, and he was going to be a safety for us. And then just looking at the depth and what was going on in the corner room and what have you, said, well, he's a really good wide receiver in high school and safety, and so we thought that skill set would be good at the corner spot because of the way he can track the ball and make plays in the back end. And so we made that move, and he was all for it. And lo and behold, he's done a nice job in fall camp with that, and earned his way starting spot. So, and he's still young. I mean, he's still learning. He's just a freshman. So there's the growing pains of that, but his future is very bright.
Yeah. And then just real quick on Noah, even Larry Turner, and these other guys are kind of stepping up and kind of seem like they're just starting to find their feet. And
Yeah.
defensively, do you see more of that kind of happening?
Yeah, there's a lot of new faces. I mean, we have some guys that are returners, but there's a lot of guys that this is their first opportunity to really get out there and be an integral part of our defense. And so there is some of those growing pains that just takes reps and getting that experience. But just really pleased with Noah, you mentioned, and Larry's coming along. He's doing a nice job. I mean, we've got a bunch of guys that are just getting their feel of how to play at this Division I level, and we think that it's going to continue to grow and get better and better as we go along.
Nick Urias with KSJS. Coach, I know you've kind of made it a point of emphasis on, just getting off the field on 3rd down. I guess just how essential is it this week, just given, Stanford's, ground attack and the way that they could, go on those long sustained drives that Idaho did last week?
Yeah, no, it's big. I mean, again, I've said it a lot that 3rd downs are crucial, and they're money downs, and we got to get off the field in those situations. And up until the last game, we've done a nice job. But again, every game is like a new, season in per se. Like that. That's it. And so we have to each and every week. Each team presents a different skill set. Idaho, their quarterback was outstanding. I mean, I said it last week. I think he's going to be one of the best guys we play this year. And everybody kind of scoffed. I was like, I'm telling you, this guy is good. And he extended plays. A lot on those 3rd downs. And so each week is a different animal you got to face, and it's a new task this week. It's no different. So they're big, athletic, good group, offensive line, and their backs are great. Another challenge. So that's what we got to step up and do.
Aaron Johnson with the Mercury News, and then preparing to Michael Ford for Stanford's had a great start to the season. So what have you seen from him, and what's it like preparing to go against someone like him?
Yeah, he's special running back. Special. He's great balance, speed, catch the ball in the backfield. I mean, he's the full, what you want in the back. Just a full package of that. He'll sit in there and block on pass protection. He's a special one, and their other 2 backs are really good too. So. That's what you expect out of a Power 4 team like that, and they have a good one.
And then you guys faced Ben Galverson when he was at Oregon State last year. What are you taking from that matchup when you saw him last to this one?
I mean, I don't know if you can take much out of it. It's a new offense, a new way that he's being taught different things. I mean, I know he's playing really well right now. He was really efficient in the last game. I think he threw for almost 300 yards and very efficient, no interceptions. And so, he has a head coach that's, been in it and done it a bunch, Coach Reich, and, NFL. He's coached at the highest level, multiple teams, and called plays. So he's in good hands, and it's showing. He's playing at a high level right now.
And then when you're playing a team with an offense like last week in Idaho, where the they dominate the time of possession, and the drives just keep on going. Just what goes into the substitution decisions that you make throughout those like long extended drives?
Yeah, that we leave that to each position coach. They kind of keep an eye on their guys out there, how they look. If they're getting tired, they send a new group in, and so that's why you're always trying to build depth on your team, and because of those, they could get in a game like that, and they've got all the guys that you throw in there. You're wanting them to play at the same level as the guy that they just took out. So that's all part of it. Hopefully we don't have too many more of those situations in the future, but it could happen, and we're prepared to keep battling all the way to the end. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that we kept going. Like, we gave ourselves a chance at the end to win the game, and so that's what really it's about. Just have one more point than they do.
And then what did you think of Nafafanga's performance?
Outstanding. He was a beast. He was, and he's an unsung hero. He doesn't say much, but he's so tough and he's agile. He played with a high motor in this last game, and I'm just so happy for him. And he's the catalyst for our front. I mean, how he goes, we go. So he had a really, really good game. He's a special player, and hopefully he'll get a chance to play at the next level.
Vic Aquino, Mountain West Connection, Yahoo Sports. On the play that Jabari broke for that 87 yards, or any of the high output plays, the offensive line looks like they're doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
When you see those on tape, is everyone executing the way they're expected to versus maybe ones that didn't work out? And just like, what are you doing after in post tape room?
I think when you watch a play like that, and those ones that we were able to run the ball really well and efficiently, all five guys are not just getting the hat on the hat, but they're moving people, and they're staying sticky on their blocks. I think on some of the other ones, maybe throughout the season, we did have some ID issues, but really it wasn't finishing the blocks. Guys getting shed, guys are not really widening the edges or staying on the correct shoulders. So we're finishing in the proper position, and we're finishing being more physical. And, that was the thing that we were working on throughout spring all the way through fall camp, and felt really good about. And just those things were the things that wasn't showing up, consistently in the games.
Yeah. And those when everyone's doing their part and it triggers that big play, just how important it is for these. I mean, it triggers this momentum, this energy, the psychology, and all of a sudden you just see it take off.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what it probably stems from, I'm assuming. But someone like Jabari, and then does each player know that that they can be that spark? I guess.
Absolutely, and as Jabari, they had the ball in his hands, but the five guys up front, and the guy that really was the unsung hero in that play was it was Kyrie Scholes. He was a right wide out. We talked about it all week that corner is going to try to trigger and help on the run into the boundary. So was talking to the wideouts, and Billy did a really good job emphasizing you got to go ahead and take a specific angle to cut those corners off. And he squared them up and got them locked out, and it got Jabari on the second level and to the safety. And Jabari did a great job breaking the tackle and not running everybody. So, but that was a play that I would say so far that really, like you said, inspired the whole team, and inspired us on offense, because after that, that's when we started just scoring, drive after drive, and was really, really proud of that. But, we saw that, the thing I told Jabari in the team meeting, and, he was a player of the game for us. We saw that last spring, and somewhere along the lines from last spring through, maybe through Texas, was like, where is that Jabari Bates? Where's the guy that we saw when we first got here that was springing those big runs? And that was what we were waiting for. So, we talked last week about patience. We were patiently waiting. I mean, that's like, I don't even know how many months that, I can't count that high. That was a long time waiting for Jabari. And hopefully from the Texas to this game, he just continues to ride that wave. And we're going to need him to break those long runs, because he's got that speed. Yeah.
Just a skiing question. Is part of the spread and shred, does that contain any kind of hits or screens or swing pass kind of just in the short passing game?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we do have some screens, really for us, because the amount of options and choice routes that we have in the back end, it's really for us to keep the back end to protect the quarterback and handle pressures and handle leakage. You look over the course of how many years we've been doing this, if we got the back out on a lot of these things, the quarterback wouldn't be able to get the ball off. And it even happened in this past game. Walker takes, and as a quarterback, you take a lot of that responsibilities, the good and the bad. And there was a few balls that obviously he should have thrown it a little bit deeper or got rid of it a little bit sooner. But there was also a few balls where, we need to protect him better. We can't have those guys in the lap. It's hard to throw the ball, 50 plus yards when there's guys right here like in this podium way, and you can't finish the throw. So, that's part of the reason why we want to keep the backs and protect the quarterbacks. And then, maybe in a game or two, you might see the backs get out a little bit. So, yeah.
Nick Urias with KSJS. Coach, I know it's been kind of like a rough start for, Walker Egan, but how did you feel like he settled into that game last week versus Idaho?
Yeah, I think early on it was kind of that same. He had a different look in his eye. I think the first two games he was kind of searching a little bit for where he is. This past game in the beginning, it was just one of those things where you just got to put it out a couple more yards, and obviously it would have helped if Leland was able to come down with that first one. Obviously, we'd like to put it 4 yards more in front and just run underneath it, just make it a 75-yard touchdown or whatever it is from the get-go. But he I think he was a lot more confident and calm on the sidelines through that first few series, even after the fumble. And it was just, this game, rather than pointing out what you should have, could have done, I kind of took more of the approach like, hey, listen, yeah, like we made that mistake, but we're good. Move on to the next one. We did a lot in the last 2 weeks, just meeting in the afternoons, not just talking about football plays, but the psychology of where he's at and where he needs to be and what's important. Like we talked about the Pens last week up here. It was all about just forget, whatever that's happened. I sent him, let me say this. I think it was Roger Federer. I sent him a clip that I saw on Instagram, and he was doing a commencement speech, right, in a college. And he talked about how every match he won, I think it was like 60-something% of his matches, or 80%, I forget what it was. And then when he talked about, every point he won, I think it was like 59% of his points, right? When you think about it, the best to ever do it, but he's only at 59% of every point is just one play. And he's like, whether it was a highlight that showed up on ESPN, it was worth 1 point. Whether it was a bad unforced error, it's just 1 point. Every play is just one play. And that's something that I sent Walker in the morning. It doesn't matter, good or bad, it's just one play. And the play that you're about to play is the most important one. And once you play that play, good, bad, or whatever, it's the next play. It's just one play. And I thought he did a much better job of taking that mentality into the game. And it showed. The first quarter was rough. And then the second quarter, he played better. And then third quarter, he was on it. Fourth quarter, he made some key reads and some key throws for us. And so we're going to keep that mentality. Just one play is just a point. Just one play. Next play mentality.
Aaron Johnson with the Mercury News, and then being a coordinator for a game where Idaho's kind of dominating the time of possession throughout the whole game. Is there like kind of an added pressure of like, okay, we need to score since you only got the call like 47 plays when you get the ball in your hands?
No, not really. When you think about it, you're just trying to do your job. And, listen, we got our own issues, in offense. The last thing I need to do is worry about like, hey, gosh, we got to get him off the field. I can't get emotionally hijacked that way. I got to focus on what I got to do, what plays I got to play, and how we got to, continue the momentum on offense. I thought our assistant coaches, I remember talking in the headsets throughout that second, third, and fourth quarter of just saying, hey, get with your guys. Just make sure you talk to them, get them going for this series. I thought the coaches did a great job on the sideline, of getting their guys ready to go and staying locked in, because it could have easily, after like a 9-minute drive or 7-minute drive, our guys kind of just start space cadetting. You know what I mean? So I think we did a good job of getting those guys rallied up, and those guys believed in, and they started talking to themselves, to each other, just like, hey, it's our turn, let's go. Hey, it's our turn, let's go. So it was good. It was a nice change of pace to be on the sideline where the guys were actually taking that lead and were inspiring coaches too.
And then what goes into the decisions to bring in Tama? Like when do you feel like he's necessary to bring him in for the drive?
Yeah, I think, there's some specific situations that we want to get him in the football game. And as a staff, offensive staff, every afternoons at around 5:30, we have a meeting and we talk through, whatever scenarios that we were watching and ideas and whatnot. So we're going through each one, and we are third and short, and there's, those 5 play calls that we're going to use in third and short. And so, I'm looking at him like, which one you guys like first? And Coach Ken, he looks up and he goes, I like the Tama one. I like that one. I said, okay. I put K in 1. That means that's the first play in that situation, and that's Coach Ken's, that's his recommendation. I promise you, Kenny Niumatalolo's recommendation goes a long way. It trumps anybody else's. So that was really his call on that third and short, and that was a heck of a call, and that was a heck of a play design to get Tama the ball and in space, and he made it right. So that's kind of how those things go into play. But at the same time, too, though, you look at the last play of the game, right, where we put Tama in, and it's a Q run play. Well, our guy Dennis, he likes the ball in a certain place, and so we weren't going to overthink it. We were going to make sure that it's where he wanted. We didn't want to give the ball back to Idaho, and Tama just took care of the football, got what he needed to get. Sure, we would like to pop a touchdown run, but I got the job done, and we trust Tama for a true freshman to put the ball in his hands in those situations, in third and short, and at the end of the game. I think that's a testament to the kind of person that he is, that we can trust a guy like that. That's just had his birthday on Sunday. He's a young kid, so.
And then at what point was the Jabari Bates big run in that game? Was that the point that you kind of started to rely on the run game a little more, or was that kind of a focal point coming into the game against Idaho?
It's kind of been a focal point through the season, because we knew going into the season everybody was going to say we're going to take away the pass. We're going to try to have San Jose State beat you running the football. I mean, I've never seen a 4-man box before. We got 3 down linemen, 1 backer in the box. You got 3 safeties. Everybody's playing over the top of everybody. We still had in the first half opportunities to hit it down the field, but after we hit Danny Scudero, I think after that they started playing a lot more coverage. And so, there's only 3 things you can do. You can run the ball, you can throw the ball, and you can really throw a screen. And when you're going to take all the passes away and you're going to put coverage over the top of Danny and some of the other guys, you got to run the football well. And so it's a testament to the O-line and John Estes and getting those guys ready. And I thought Mike Smith done a wonderful job of we got 3, potentially 4 really good running backs in the room. And for him to just be able to rotate through those guys and trust the guys that he does and step up and recommend, hey, we got to play Jabbar. Hey, we got to play this guy. We got to get chalk in these situations. He's done a wonderful job with those running backs too.
Hey, Coach, Niles with the Spear here. Last week you told us the offense was close to clicking. Did you see that to a certain extent on Saturday?
I think so. When you go ahead and you score in every drive, in the second quarter you get 1, third quarter second quarter you get 2 drives, you score touchdowns, and you go third quarter you get 1, you score a touchdown, fourth quarter you get 2 drives, touchdown, game winning deal. I think that's really good. If you can score every time you get the football, that's good football. And it was good to see in a critical moment Walker be able to throw the football to Jackson. Everybody's looking at number 10 running across the field, and that safety takes off. And there's Jackson, right inside the hash and be able to hit him. And so we've done a lot of good things. And again, Coach Judge has also done a wonderful job getting the tight ends to be consistent and guys that we can rely on, because we don't call their number all the time. It's kind of like a running back position in this offense. It's a gritty, it's a grimy position, but when your number's called, you got to make big plays. So I think everybody, all the assistant coaches and Billy Ray with the receivers has done a wonderful job. So I think that's a testament to the players taking the coaching and the players executing it.
And then what have you seen from Stanford's defense to keep this momentum going?
Their defensive coordinator, I've known Andy for a long time, probably the last 20 years, and he's a really good defensive coordinator. I've seen him, I think this is the 4th time in maybe 5 years I'm facing them, something like that, or 3 times in 4 years or whatnot. They're going to be, bigger than, not quite as big, I think, as Texas, but they're going to be a big team up front. They're going to have some speed around the perimeter. This morning we had a little offensive meeting, and I likened them in Rocky IV. It's like Ivan Drago, right? And he had all the nicest facilities. He had all the food. They had everything. He was the chosen one to be the heavyweight champ of the world. And then you got us, Rocky. We're training in Siberia. We're training in Corette in a cabin. You know what I mean? We don't really have much, and we're gritty, we're grimy, and we got to be those guys. And so what I look at when I flip on the film, I see Stanford as a tough, big, physical. They're not the same defense that we played against last year. They made some upgrades. Obviously, they lost the Bailey guy, which, thank goodness. He was our freaking one-man wrecking ball out there, as a defensive end. But at the same time, too, though, they've also upgraded other positions. And they made changes since the first game. The first game, there was a lot of guys that was starting in that game that's no longer playing. And so we're going to see a team that's gotten better over the last few weeks, and they're kind of letting their hair hang out and fly around a little bit more, and they're being more aggressive. But we're going to stay on the attack too, and we're going to go ahead and do what we got to do to win this game.
And then how does playing a team like Texas, 2 weeks prior, or 3 weeks prior, kind of help for this matchup?
I think psychologically it could, because we were able to do some good things against Texas when we valued the football and we hung on to it. But at the same time too, though, we talked about this morning too. We got to retain information from the last games, but we also got to refocus on new opponents. And these opponents are going to be a little bit different than Texas. They do a lot of different things on defense. I know Andy does a lot of different things. He's got a lot of different packages. He's got 3 down. He's got some 4 down. He's got all these different coverages on the back end. He likes to play aggressive. He likes to play man-to-man. He likes to go ahead and bring pressures, and he likes to run games on the inside. So, he's got a lot of weapons of his own, but we got to be ready for everything.
Kind of like a question on the side. Did you get a chance to did you text Marcus Mariota after his big win or talk to him?
Yeah.
Just thought of his performance.
Yeah. He's such a good guy. I was able to text him before the game. It was I think it was 2 hours or an hour and a half before the game, and I didn't know he was going to start. And I was watching NFL Live. I'm like, oh my gosh, Marcus is going to play. Shama text, and I'm just kind of walking around. I'm like, oh, text it back. What are we doing, man? Get ready for the game, And then after the game, I was so proud of the way that he played. I love watching Marcus play because he's such a good person. He works his tail off, and he does things the right way. And it's a testament to show that you could do things the right way and still be successful and not have to be a me guy. You can be a team guy. And he's done a great job with the quarterback, Jalen Daniels, there to help him out. But it was great to watch Marcus play and see him successful on Sunday. It was awesome.